you cheeky internet rascals. Today, we're diving back down the VHS rabbit hole and revisiting 1989's Cameron Crowe's directorial debut. That's right, we're talking Say Anything with John Cusack. Let's get right into the John Cusack-ified action here on VHS Crazy.
Put a little weekend in your week. Rent a video.
When I first saw this thing, it has an orange type price tag here, so I thought this was like a really obscure movie. I mean, looking at this case, it's light blue, it's extremely worn, it has the CBS Fox Video logo on the sides here, so I thought, you know, this is a really like obscure movie, like nobody's seen this thing. But it is the directorial debut of Cameron Crowe, also known for his movies Almost Famous, Vanilla Sky. Before this, he wrote Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which I would argue is just like a better movie, but this is his first directorial movie. And, you know, Elizabethtown, We Bought a Zoo, Cameron Crowe directed We Bought a Zoo. You remember the movie where they buy a zoo. He directed that.
It's a zoo.
Welcome to your zoo.
Say Anything is the kind of movie that seems really divisive. From the Wikipedia page, the critics' consensus seems to be that if you're in high school, you'll really love this movie, and if you're an adult, then you'll get absolutely nothing out of it because it's about petty high school relationship drama. But we got John Cusack here. I find John Cusack fascinating because he's the type of actor who just looks like an action figure, and as he's aged, his face is kind of just widened and gotten a little taller, but it still looks exactly the same. Like, you can tell this is a young John Cusack, and now he's old John Cusack, and he's washed up, and he's appearing in the Amazon original remake of Utopia, and his career is a flop at this point. But this was back when he was young and hot, and he was just like the it guy, you know. He was just the gosh dang teen heartthrob here, John Cusack, you know. It's so weird to think about, because now he's so old and he's so like not hot, but there was a point where, you know, he was just the hunkiest guy around. To Say Anything deals with John Cusack, and you got Ione Skye as Diane Court, and John Cusack plays Lloyd Dobler, which is a funny name, so you know it's going to be a funny movie. Now, of course, this isn't just a comedy, it's a teen romance comedy drama, so it's kind of a weird pastiche of genres that don't really go together, but Cameron Crowe is giving it his all. And I was expecting more like signifiers of Cameron Crowe's directorial style in here. Again, you probably won't know about this unless you're like a dedicated Cameron Crowe fan who just is extremely loyal to the Cameron Crowe brand and filmography. But there really aren't that many touches in here that make you go, oh yeah, this is directed by the same guy as like Vanilla Sky. Not really. I mean, I've seen Vanilla Sky. Better simulation movie than The Matrix, by the way, by a long shot. But this is like very early. This is 1989, and yeah, this is an original VHS release here. Like I said, it's got the CBS Fox logo. CBS and Fox had a merger at some point. I don't remember any of it. If you happen to get your hands on this copy in particular, it has a hilarious little like trailer collection near the beginning, which is just one of the most 80s things ever, and I freaking love it. So, I mean, it's probably on a lot of these CBS Fox videos, because this was a very like 80s video releasing company, CBS Fox, with this logo with the little stripes in the middle. John Cusack is Lloyd Dobler, and then he's in love with Diane Court. And it's kind of, I mean, this is like the most cliche romance movie you can possibly think of. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm a huge fan of There's Something About Mary by the Farrelly Bros because I think it really switches things up in the romantic comedy genre. But I think this is kind of the movie that Something About Mary is like trying to subvert. You know, because this is a very by-the-numbers, like, teen romance. There's nothing surprising that happens. There's no surprises. It's just like, oh, Lloyd sees Diane, Lloyd dates Diane, Lloyd takes Diane out, then Diane dumps Lloyd, and then Lloyd is sad, and then at the end Lloyd goes and he's with Diane in the end.
I'm gonna take out Diane Court again.
Well, that's unlikely.
It goes some weird places you wouldn't really expect, but for the most part it's a very standard by-the-numbers romance with very few frills. Like, this is a very generic type movie. But I guess when it came out, it was something brand new, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, a teen romance. This is so original and new, and it's never been done before. Which I feel like there were teen romances before this that were quirky and kitschy, like Gidget.
You'll get to meet them all when you see Columbia Pictures' Gidget.
I guess this is the first, like, Gen X, it's a very Gen X deal. So if you like Mallrats, or you like Dazed and Confused, maybe this is for you. I'd argue that Mallrats and Clerks and Dazed and Confused are better movies on a fundamental level, but it is Cameron Crowe's first stint as a director, so you gotta cut him some slack. John Cusack is on the back here, holding the boombox, which on the Wikipedia page is described as one of the most iconic moments in film history. I mean, I would beg to differ, because I've never seen that before watching this movie. Like, I've never seen John Cusack holding up the boombox. Maybe this is the most iconic moment in John Cusack's career, but I've never seen this anywhere else. He's rocking that trench coat, he's rocking that boombox. I will argue that John Cusack's trench coat in this is really cool, and definitely, like, a pretty iconic outfit. It makes him look like a weird, like, detective or something. And that's what you got only in 1989, you know. That said, I do think Say Anything has historical value as it chronicles the kind of, you know, teen lifestyle that was going on back in 1989, especially with the party scene where they're all partying and there's this giant tape deck and they're all going off cassettes. It looks fun. But I for one am often accused of being one of those imbeciles who goes like, I was born in the wrong generation, man. I wish I was old enough to use cassettes. You can still use cassettes, but I don't think I was born in the wrong generation. To be honest, Gen X seems just a bit cringe for my sensibilities. I'm fine with being Gen Z where I'm at.
We finally graduated, big new guy!
You know, the cover here, I mean, the picture on the front really makes it look like this is some, like, B-movie that nobody has ever watched, like the most obscure shit. And I still maintain, like, this is a pretty obscure movie. If you know about this movie, I mean, congrats, but, like, you watch too many teen romances. I mean, this is more obscure than, like, 16 Candles or, like, Pretty in Pink. It's like, I mean, sure, it has John Cusack, but, like, plenty of John Cusack movies are forgettable and generic and obscure. He's not the kind of actor who exactly, like, commands a presence, you know? But I will say his face is distinctive. There's at least that, so, you know, oh, it's John Cusack. Even though he's like 17 in this, he's so flippin' young. We got some quotes here. The whole movie has the charm of originality and sincerity, says David Denby at the New York Magazine. I'll agree on that point. I mean, maybe not the originality point, because it has like the most generic plot ever. And even the John Hughes teen movies, which I'm not a big fan of, like Breakfast Club and whatever, you know, at least those had like the John Hughes flair, like the directorial, like, oh yeah, this is John Hughes, you know, so even though it's stupid and it's about just a bunch of teens getting up to hijinks, you know, even though it's the Breakfast Club, at least it has like John Hughes moments which make it kind of funny. But this isn't really a funny movie very much. There are very few jokes. I mean, I laughed a couple times, like at the point where John Cusack talks about old people eating. That's kind of funny. And a couple other times. I will say this movie is sincere. Like, it feels like Cameron Crowe wasn't trying to be like phony or like condescending or anything, but that's not saying much. I mean, this isn't exactly like, you know, the sort of movie that you look at and go, oh yeah, this is an artificial product. I mean, obviously it's going to be sincere. It's like the most, you know, it's the most quaint shit. Frisky, savvy, and wonderfully entertaining, says Scott Haller at People. It might have been savvy back in 1989, but today it's pretty outdated. As for wonderfully entertaining, I would say mildly entertaining at the most, giving it credit. It's a decent movie to watch. You can watch it, and you might enjoy some parts of it. And if you're into teen comedies, I don't know. That's not my favorite genre or anything, but you know, it's a teen rom-com, and the boombox bit is later translated into that new movie, or is it Love Actually? Love Actually is actually got on VHS. I'm going to do that soon. Look forward to that. I don't know, I put so many rom-coms in the VHS box, but this isn't, you know, this isn't me reviewing movies I particularly like. I just got 47 VHS tapes at random, and I have to review all of them. I could call this series Watch Anything, for gosh sakes. Because I'll watch anything. Love Actually, coming up soon. Is that the one with the guy who goes outside the girl's window and like has the signs with words on them? I know that's one of those. But yeah, I'd say this movie kind of invented the trope of like, hey, I'm outside your window and I'm going to be romantic to you in a really weird way, like that 5 Gum commercial where, you know, the girl goes to the window and the guy has carved this entire like heart of fire on the ground, real fire hazard, you know, just this giant blazing heart of flames. It's like an inferno. Personally, if I saw that outside my window, I'd assume someone was going to kill me with a knife while I slept, but to each their own, I suppose. 5 Gum, enjoy the sensation. The description on the back says, Lloyd Dobler wants one thing for high school graduation, a date with Diane Court. She's a beautiful, brilliant scholar who's just landed a fellowship to study in England.
Let's go out.
Oh, thanks, but I'm busy.
Which makes her way out of Lloyd's league. At least that's what his friends and her father believe. Lloyd, however, believes in love, pure and simple, so he sets out to capture Diane's heart, and in the process they both learn about the happiness and heartaches of falling in love. Say Anything is a funny, poignant, joyous celebration of first love. It features 2 of today's most exciting young actors, John Cusack and Ione Skye. Together they create an on-screen chemistry that vibrates with passion, humor, and charm. A love that defies all logic is sometimes the most logical thing in the world. 100 Minutes. And of course this is 20th Century Fox, which means this is now technically owned by Disney. What a crazy world we live in, where this is owned by Disney.
I love you too!
Why does Disney even want this? I don't know. Disney is crazy like that. So, as it says, at the point that this was made, John Cusack was one of today's most exciting young actors. He might have been at one point. There might have been a point where you went to see John Cusack, and it was like, you know, these days when you go and see Timothy Chalamet. Gosh, that's weird to think about. That John Cusack was once as young as Timothy Chalamet. It just hurts the mind to consider. There was a point where this movie actually made me laugh. And that's the point near the end of Act 2, where Lloyd Dobler is he's in the slumps, you know, he's having post-breakup sadness, so he goes down to the gas station, right? Because he has these 2 comedic sidekick girls, Corey and DC, who are like, I guess they're like the comic relief of the movie or something.
Diane Court doesn't go out, she's a brain. Trapped in the body of a game show hostess.
And so he's like, oh dang, my friends are girls, and I gotta hang out with the guys. So he goes down to the gas station, and there's this big shot of like all the guys at the gas station, right? Because John Cusack's like, oh, these guys will help me become more masculine, right? Long shot of all the guys at the gas station. They're all giving him like relationship advice. And then at the end of the line of guys, there's this like 10-year-old kid.
Bitches, man.
You gonna give that kid a comp?
Hey, dude, I better bail.
And that was the moment where I actually like laughed pretty hard. That moment is actually really funny. And then they launch into like this freestyle rap where they make fun of Lloyd Dobler's name. It is a really stupid name, so that's pretty funny. And it kind of speaks to like the Cameron Crowe sensibilities that he'd become really known for in his later movies like Jerry Maguire and Almost Famous. And I wish this movie had more of that, because like there's something about that nice Cameron Crowe down-home sensibility, I guess you'd call it the breaking of suspension of disbelief, that is just fun to watch, you know? And I wish there was more moments like that in this movie. But yeah, the bit with the gas station guys actually managed to crack me up, because you know, as much as I can say this movie is outdated in the fashion and the you know look of it, and like it's a very 80s movie, even though it's late 80s, it's like 1989. It's a very 80s movie. Like the soundtrack's pure 80s. You got Peter Gabriel on the boombox here. Yeah, that's what John Cusack's playing. Peter Gabriel, just outside Diane Court's window at like 3 a.m. Just Peter Gabriel. You know, nothing wrong with Peter Gabriel. He's made some jams, Big Time, you know, Sledgehammer, you know, all that. It's not either of those on the boombox, but as much as the fashion and tech and like look and feel, and it's a very 80s movie, but the gender dynamics are still pretty relevant. And it's funny to see these over-emasculated guys at the gas station who, like, you know, like believe they have the secret to women. It reminds me of the pickup artistry that goes on these days with all these hyper-emasculated guys who are like, I know the secret to women. So that scene actually made me really crack up, like the gender dynamics.
You guys know so much about women. How come you're here at like a gas and sip on a Saturday night completely alone drinking beers? No women anywhere.
Also, I like how John Cusack's character, Lloyd Dobler, has some friends who are girls. That's a pretty good representation of, yeah, you can have friends who are girls, you know, because these days all these alpha males are like, you can't have friends who are girls because then you'll be romantically attracted to them. Your horniness will overtake you and you'll become a sex-starved maniac. I enjoy the reservation that Lloyd shows here. You know, he's just for Diane Court. That's the whole deal. And he has these two pals who are just these, like, you know, like they're just like comedic relief, and they just like are in a couple scenes. But there's one bit at the party scene, right? Lloyd is talking to Corey, who's like a musician, and she works at a guitar shop, right? And she's written like 65 songs about her ex-boyfriend Joe, right? Who like cheated on her, right? And she sees him cheating on her in the middle of the party, so she calls him out. And the joke, I guess, is that all these songs are really like boring and like the same, you know, because you can only write 65 songs about one guy for so long. You know, the songs aren't going to be very good, is the joke. But she writes like 65 songs about this one guy, Joe. She meets him in a closet at the party, and he's like, I'm so sorry. And apparently, like, the girl he was cheating on her with is like leaving soon or something. So he's like, I'll break up with her and then we can be back together, but for right now, can we have sex? And she's just like, fuck off, Joe. And she shoves him away and leaves, and that's the last we see of Joe in the entire movie. And I think that's just such a badass moment, because Joe seems like a total dip nozzle.
I love you.
I love you too.
You invade my soul.
Corey is the most interesting character in this movie, but she's reduced to being a sidekick and comic relief and like a subplot. And the whole time I was just thinking, this movie does not have enough of Corey. Like DC isn't as interesting. She doesn't get to explore anything. But the fact that Corey writes 65 songs about the same guy, that should be the plot of the movie. John Cusack and Skye's thing should just be moved to like a subplot. That should be the subplot. Joan Cusack, oddly enough, is in this. She plays Lloyd Dobler's sister, and for whatever reason, she's uncredited, even though she's in quite a few scenes. I find it pretty bizarre how Joan Cusack plays John Cusack's character's sister, and she's his sister in real life. That's just so weird. You know, Joan and John Cusack. It's confusing. Yeah, Corey should be the main character of this movie. Or at the very least, there should be like a spin-off movie with just Corey, because she's so interesting. She's the most interesting character. And all the while you're watching, you know, John Cusack and Ione Skye's relationship dramas, you know, Lloyd Dobler and Diane Court. And it's so boring, because, like, Diane Court, she's not a very interesting character. She has no substance to her. She's cardboard thin.
No, we don't have to say it.
How do you know what I'm gonna say?
I don't know what you're gonna say.
There's gotta be a Corey movie. You could call it Corey in the House or something. It'd be the funniest, because like she's the best character in this whole thing, and the scenes with her are like the best. She's such a fun character, and like I don't know what Cameron Crowe was thinking. The movie should have just been about Corey, and then you could have relegated Lloyd Dobler to the background. Because all the scenes where they're like schmoozing and making out, they really have nothing going for them. Unless you're attracted to John Cusack or what's her name, Ione Skye. I guess then, you know, this movie might do something for you. But if you're into plot, then 100 scenes of John Cusack just being like, hey, you want to make out, or you want me to teach you how to drive, or hey, let's go to the party. You know, it gets kind of dull and repetitive after a while. Critics say that this is like a realistic movie, a realistic depiction of the times and how that whole thing goes, and you know, it's realistic. I would agree it's realistic. It's about as entertaining as you would expect from that real situation. Maybe that's why a lot of people connect with it and identify with it, and are like, oh yeah, this is just like how it was for me back in high school. But, you know, it's pretty boring otherwise. There's really no plot. Except the bits with Corey. There needed to be more Corey in this. That could have saved the movie.
You're not a guy. You know, the world is full of guys. Be a man.
So at the last minute, oh yeah, spoiler alert. This is a pretty easy spoiler to warn against. It turns out that Diane Court's dad is like an embezzler, and he's conducting fraud because he owns this rest home, and he's basically stealing from all the elderly patients, and he's saving up the money for Diane after she comes back from England, because she's just got a scholarship to go to England. And this obviously also creates some conflict because you know, she can't be with Lloyd if she's over in England. But then at the end, Lloyd's just like, I'm going over to England. Screw it. I'll go over to England with her. And he could have done that no matter what, even if Diane's father hadn't been accused of embezzling. But it introduces the IRS, that Diane's father has some issues with the IRS.
This evening is over.
And your former wife.
And then there's a dramatic scene where Diane is like, Daddy, you're siphoning money off all these senior citizens, you absolute scumbag. And her dad's like, it isn't what it looks like, honey, I promise. All that money, all that stolen money in the drawer, it's not what it looks like. I was just doing it for you. I was just doing it for you, honey. I mean, it's weird. It's weird Cameron Crowe tries and crams in this, like, embezzlement plot. Yeah, this is written and directed by Cameron Crowe, so I'm not sure what he was thinking with that. I guess it stuffs in a little, like, extra conflict or intrigue, because otherwise the movie would just be about two young people who are into each other and get in a relationship and stay in a relationship. And that wouldn't be much of a movie, so he's got to cram in this high-stakes IRS investigation. which I feel is kind of tonally inconsistent, you know. It's a pretty strange movie, I'll give it that. It's out there, you know, like the quote says, originality. This is back when movies tried things, and I kind of miss that, because you don't know what to expect, you know. You'd never expect that this, you know, teen rom-com would involve a thing about, you know, some, like, the owner of a rest home stealing his patients' funds. You wouldn't expect that.
You all right, sir? You okay? I'm incarcerated, Lloyd!
You know, when they die, he just, like, steals all their money, which I don't even know how that's even possible, you know, considering, like, don't the old people's relatives have the money? It's never really explained. I guess it'd be possible somehow if you own a rest home. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not in the rest home business. But there's this scene where John Cusack is playing Cocoon for all these old people. Cocoon's a better movie, but that part's kind of funny. The part with the old people. So yeah, Diane Court's dad is like an embezzler. And, you know, it's kind of the classic, oh, I'm a poor guy, and I'm aiming for the rich girl. And the economic differences between us is what creates the tension, because she's a classy gal, and I'm just I'm a poor guy from the wrong side of the tracks. How will I make it out with her when I'm low income, she's high income?
Diane Court doesn't go out with guys like you.
You know, it's kind of that whole deal. You know, it's like, oh, Diane Court is so prissy and fancy. How will Lloyd Dobler, you know, make it with her? How will it work out? That never presents much of a conflict. They're just, like, into each other. And then, like, at one point, Diane's dad forces her to break up with Lloyd, but she doesn't want to. It's like, why would she want to? They're into each other. So yeah, the conflict feels kind of forced. It is a historically significant film. It started a lot of tropes and cliches, like the boom box and standing outside your window at 3 a.m. and professing your undying love to some girl who's probably asleep.
What's up, guys? Back with another 3 a.m. challenge.
And yeah, so it has all the characteristics of the kind of indie spirit that later Cameron Crowe projects would carry on, right down to the, you know, casual little cursive font that makes up the movie's title. I would say that modern audiences can probably relate to it, even though it's from 1989. It is a pretty dated movie as far as its soundtrack and stuff goes, but maybe if you're in high school and you're in a relationship or something, this could be the movie for you. I don't know. It's pretty stupid, but it's charming in a lot of ways. It needs more Corey. It just does. It needs more Corey. Or Corey needs to be in her own movie, because, like, seriously, she's the best character in this, and she doesn't get enough screen time compared to flipping Diane Court, who's such a static, one-dimensional, boring character. Like, nothing happens to her the whole movie.
Watch out for that glass.
I guess if you're into a realistic, very grounded depiction of teen romance in 1989, then this just might be the movie for you. Although I don't know how realistic it is that John Cusack is out there with his boombox just screaming Peter Gabriel in the middle of nowhere, and like Diane's dad doesn't call the cops. Can he hear this Peter Gabriel just blasting out from the field? He'd probably call the cops on John Cusack. I mean, Peter Gabriel's loud and soulful and deep. Anyway, what do I give Say Anything when all is said and done? Well, I'm gonna give Say Anything, drumroll please, 3.5 stars.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
3.5 stars. It's not a 4-star movie, which is like decent, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I probably wouldn't recommend this unless you were in a very specific demographic. If you're in the demographic who would enjoy this kind of thing, you probably know you are. You know, you probably know you're in the demographic for this kind of thing. just by the picture on the cover alone. Like, it's a very specific type of movie for a very specific audience. Definitely not my type of movie, nor is Love Actually, which I'll be reviewing, but I probably like this more than Love Actually, because at least this has, like, talented people working on it, and Cameron Crowe and all. Cusack's an okay actor, but I don't know why he's in so many comedies. Like, he's not a funny guy, you know. He's not funny. So, like, what? He's in Tapeheads. Like, he's not a funny guy. So I don't know why he's always cast as that. He's not a comedian. Yeah, 3.5 stars. Needs more Corey. Needs more flippin' Corey. That's what could have set it apart from the crowd if it had more Corey. I think that's why Something About Mary succeeds, because it goes all in on the comedy aspect, and it's Doogie, or whatever Chris Elliott's character's name is, and, you know, Tucker, or whatever, you know, just all these out there wacky characters, and Corey could have been one of those, but she was relegated to a subplot, and as a result, swept into the dustbin of cinematic history. Our hearts go out to Corey. One of the best characters in any rom-com ever, but not enough screen time, not enough development. Yeah, I mean, some people say this movie is like the best shit. It's got a startlingly high approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and Roger Ebert, I guess, liked it. But, like, there's really nothing to this movie. It's a pretty bare bones, by the numbers, really generic, you know, really, like, just standard romance about, you know, I'm a poor guy and I'm into the hot rich girl, but she has a dad who doesn't like me. Oh no, you know.
You can relax because your daughter will be safe with me for the next 7 to 8 hours, sir.
Hi.
It's really standard, but I guess if you don't require novelty in your movies, this might be for you. And I'm sure this was novel when it came out, you know, it's like, oh wow, it's a romance, but it's Gen X now. It's the Gen X romance for the Gen Xers, you know. So maybe it was new when it came out. Everyone says the line about the pin is like iconic or something. I can't say I've ever heard of any of this shit or this movie. It's light blue tinged case is a real, like, humdinger. You really want to know what's in here, and I would encourage you to maybe take the plunge and check it out, but only on VHS, of course. This is only the type of movie that can be enjoyed on VHS with a really 80s CBS Fox video promo before the movie to get you in the correct mood, because you know you're going to be watching some 80s shit. That's going to do it for this review. What do you think of Say Anything? What do you think of John Cusack? What do you think of Corey? Do you think Corey deserved more screen time in this movie? Do you think she should have been the main character? Do you think she should have been the star of an entire 100-episode TV show about how she writes 65 songs about the same guy? I think that should have happened, but that's just my take. Yeah, that's going to do it for this installment of VHS Crazy. Sayonara, suckers, and say anything. Anything you can say.